Sounding good all the time. It is Star FM. Thank you so much for making us your station of choice. It is the weekend special and uniform to this time. We have friends of the show. And this morning we are hanging out with Shingai, and she is professionally known as Shingai. She is a Zimbabwean-British singer, songwriter and musician. And I'm telling you this, I got to spend some time with her earlier on this week. It's absolute magic. Now welcome to the show, Shingai. You are looking as beautiful as ever.
Thank you, you too. Good morning, Zimbabwe.
Listen, you landed in Zimbabwe, and first time I saw you in Zim was on stage at the Eureka album launch at HICC with Winky D, and you came in with cartwheels.
Woo!
And I said, this is 2023 right here. Talk to us about Zimbabwe, the song you are featuring on Winky D's song. How did you come up with that? Who called who? What happened there? How did we end up with such a beautiful song?
Thank you so much. Well, first of all, please you can't blame me for the cartwheel. It's the soko in me. When I get on stage, the soko in me comes out, and I like to keep it moving, literally. I'm very grateful to Winky for giving me that platform to express myself authentically and to collaborate with him in the studio on a song that I feel is very uplifting. As a diasporan, the reason why I wanted to be part of the song was because I didn't really get to grow up with Zimbabwean culture firsthand. So it's something that I always idolized, romanticized, and was given education about by my aunties. So I'm here to, explore that more and to do more collaborations. And the Winky D happened because we were friends on social media, and him and Banda reached out, and he happened to be someone that I'd wanted to collaborate with for some time.
So my first time to actually set eyes on you, no cartwheels, that time was 2013 at the Hive Festival, and you came through with the UK electropop mega group, Noisettes. And you've been doing the absolute most with the Noisettes, and then you went into indie music. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so, I mean, growing up, I've always been exposed to quite a lot of genres of music. I've always been genre fluid. I'm just such a music lover that I refuse to just choose one alone. So, I grew up with a lot of Zimbabwean music, Congolese music, which is very guitar heavy, let's face it. People like Thomas Mafuma, who's actually my uncle, used a lot of guitars.
Really?
Yeah, he used a lot of guitars to bring Mbira music, traditional music, forward at a time when people needed that cultural revival, in the 70s and 80s with the war that my parents' generation went through. So I grew up with a lot of guitar music. I play the bass, I play the guitar. So being in a band was a bit of a no-brainer, and that experience led me to the heights that made me feel very intentional about my next move. And I said, whatever I achieve with the Noisettes, that international acclaim has to drive prosperity in the country of my heritage. If that success doesn't translate and help drive prosperity in Africa and in Zimbabwe, then I've still got work to do. So that's why now that I'm solo, I am very, very conscious of putting as much Bantu culture into my music as possible.
I love that. Now I'm just going to throw this one in there. And of course, if you're just tuning in, you tuned into the weekend special, friends of the show, talking to Shingai. She likes to be called by the up close and personal. Listen, she's our friend on the show this morning. So allow us to be that for you today. Now, in an interview, Adele herself revealed that you were or still are an important part of her music. But since early days, how was it like working with Adele? And she's so expressive in her music and in her art. So I don't doubt that it was quite a nice show.
Absolutely. I feel like, many of us learn as vocalists by being inspired by, people, vocalists and musicians that we love. So we were actually next door neighbors for about...
What?
Yeah, probably for about, it was either maybe 5, 6, 7 years in South London, at the time when I was still active with the Noisettes. And we also both went to the Brit School, which is Performing Arts and Technology College in London. It's the only one that is free to get into, so it's fiercely competitive. You really have to go through a lot to get in. So we had a lot in common. She was beginning finding her voice and singing, and I've always been someone who have said, look, tone is very important as a vocalist. Establish your own identity and know how to tell stories through your voice. So I have a feeling that I'm just really, really grateful that she has actually said who her inspirations are, because a lot of the time black women are left out in the music lineage. When you look at these books about music and musicians, you do get some African American vocalists mentioned, but that usually starts happening from around the 80s and 90s. So to be recognized and to be appreciated, it's a really, really, really important thing for me, because that's how I feel like we're going to move forward, if we know who our great artists are in the first place.
So listen, if you go out here in, I'll speak of Harare, to speak of what I know. If you go out and you hear a song that says, I heard you say, you immediately go, hey, hey, and I found out you're the voice. Could you please sample us, please?
Just an ordinary day. And I heard you say. That was a very, very, very interesting time for me, because not only was that song hugely popping now, but it's turned into one of the most classic house hits ever, and it's still doing the rounds almost a decade later. Yeah, I mean, at the time, it was pretty crazy to not be credited for doing that song, but I think as long as my Zimbabwean fans now know that's me, hopefully you guys can have another Zimbabwean song to be proud of.
Yes, so we're going to make sure everybody knows, because they're super proud of that. Now, last year you collaborated with Zimbabwean producer Versals on the song No Fear. Can you just tell us what happened? How did you come up with it before we take a listen to it?
Yeah, so I was actually a fan of his beats, and yeah, they contacted me when I was in Grenada. They sent me a beat, and I just literally the whole song, even the whole video, kind of unfolded before my eyes. It's a song, it's an uplifting anthem. We are the ones they said wouldn't make it. Freedom is your birthright. As a proud daughter of freedom fighters who risked their lives so that I could live and be a proud Zimbabwean Bantu, you know, goddess that I hope I am becoming, I think it's only right that I reference them in the music that I make. And that comes up a lot in my lyrics, you know, themes about freedom. And also the best thing about that video was that, about the song, was that we got to shoot the video in Blaauwel, because I think it's very, very important that we reference all the diversity culturally that the country has to offer. So it's not always about Harare, because, yeah, let's face it, Blaauwel is also lit. So that was fun.
Largely so. You were part of the top 5. You were part of the 5 artists who were part of the African theme song at the 2022 World Cup. Now, we might not have gone, and we are sobbing that as Zimbabwean we didn't get to play at the World Cup, but you went there for us, and that's big. How did that feel?
It was amazing to be asked to be part of it. It was also great to be back in the studio with Manifest, he's a huge Ghanaian rapper who's collaborated with so many artists, from Burna Boy to your girl Shingai. So yeah, doing that track was something that I'm very, very proud of, and I haven't last collaborated with Manifest since 2017, which was the last time I was at Haifa. So now Manifest is like really excited to come back to Zim. So yeah, we are moving forward so beautifully with the African music scene, and Zimbabwe's part in that is just getting bigger and bigger, and the bridge between the diasporans and the local artists is just getting more lit. So I'm really happy with the way it's going and the way that I've been received here. So super stoked and honored to be having you as our guest here on Friends of the Show. Taking up the last 2, 2023, can you tell us collabos? Where can we find you? Perhaps you even know how many times you're going to be back here, so we plan accordingly. I'm hoping to be here for as long as possible. I don't want to go back to the grey skies yet.
We hope so too,
But I will have another collaboration coming out with an amazing Zimbabwean artist, and that's coming out in April. So watch this space for that. And I'm also just building on other things, like touching base with what's going on in, you know, Kumusha, the rural communities, you know, touching base with like getting my Mwanawevu fingers dirty in the soil and seeing what I can grow besides music. But right now, it's just so great to be home, and it's a lovely time of year. There's a lot of positivity considering what people have been through, and here I am, you know, we move.
Listen, I wish people could see the energy that you have here in studio, and everything you've been saying, it's nothing except for edifying. It's something that we can apply in our lives. Now, if someone is listening to us right now and thinking, I'd love to be like Shingai, of course, please do check her out on her social media pages. It is at Shingai. Shingai, just that, with a blue tick at the end. With a blue tick at the end. And of course, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for making us your station of choice. It is Star FM. It is the weekend special, Friends of the Show, talking to Shingai. And lastly, like I said, what would you say to someone who's listening to you, perhaps wants to follow in your footsteps, or just needs that, you know, propeller to get into the industry?
I would say if I can do it, if Chiwoniso can do it, if Mbuya, Stella Chiweshe can do it. There's so many amazing artists coming out of Zim. Tammy Moyo, Chingeto, the list is endless. And I just think what's important is to identify what makes you authentic, what you love about music, how you love to wear your hair, and do your thing. Don't feel pressure to look like people in the diaspora or the outside, because you have something that we don't have. You are unique, you are beautiful. Channel your inner Bantu goddess and work with your amazing rhythms and melodies that you grew up with, and we can go in a studio and we can produce them and make them so that they are more international. But it starts with you are the raw diamond, and then everything else happens after that. So do you is what I would say.
Once in a while, thank you so much for that one.
You're welcome.
Once in a while, I get to tell people stories, and because this is radio, they have to shift into their imagination so much. And I did promo before you came into the studio that you sampled a Chiwoniso song, and that made me think she ought to be our friend today. Do you mind doing a small bit of that before we say goodbye to you?
So this amazing performance at Haifa in 2013 culminated in Chiwoniso and I doing a complete remix live with her on umbira, me on bass, and obviously the rest of the band. And we actually did a cover of an umbira song which Thomas Mafoma made famous called Shumba. I don't know if you guys know this at home, but it's Ia ogure ia ogure ia.
I would not kill it with anything else but saying thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Home.
Coming Home.
Yes, and I shot the video here. It's
available.
We're
going to play the full track.
Really?
We have to. Why not? Of course we have to. You've graced us the studio. And listen, I've got to say thank you so much for choosing to hang out with us on Friends of the Show this morning.
Thank you.
Here's to hoping that you can make the best out of your Sunday. Whatever's left of it, and obviously hoping to catch up with you. Looking forward to the collabos. And how do we catch up with you on social media?
The handles are at Shingai, Shingai on Instagram. It's Shingi Music on, I think, Facebook. And it's Shingai on Spotify and the other digital platforms. Thank you so much for your support. This has been
absolutely lovely. Now we're going to play Coming Home as we shut it down for our Friends of the Show this morning. It is the weekend special on Star FM. Good morning.